Hey folks, we're going to continue some cartography today for the adventure that we've been writing for Eberron, Crystals of Mabar. So give me a hot second here. I am going to check my signal, go through my intro spiel, and then get to work with y'all here for, I don't know, maybe like 100 minutes or something like that. We'll see. We'll see how much time we get into this. Let's see. Eberron stream, number 170, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Stream, number 170, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, sounds pretty clear. Let's see, what's next? Chuts. I'm pressing buttons here so I can start boosting my signal, and I will begin my intro spiel now. Hey, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and then publish them online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past 5 years. There are a slew of links in the description down below that point to previous works that I've created. If you click on any of them, there's if you're on a desktop, it'll say full preview underneath each book cover when you go into the individual product pages. If you're on a tablet, there'll be an eye icon on the right hand side of the screen. Either one of those things, if you click on it, it'll open up a PDF to show you previous works that we've produced. They all have extensive previews. So if you're here for the artwork, there's probably about 150 different illustrations linked down below. If you are here for the Dungeons & Dragons stuff, then the works that I design are meant for both sides of the DM screen. To be played through level 1 to 20. So go ahead and check the stuff out. If it adds value to your game, consider making a purchase to encourage similar shenanigans in the future. I've also posted that I've just gone live on Twitter, so if you want to get notifications of when I'm live in the future, you can follow me at Twitter X at Theurgy. And best way to support the channel overall is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Hey Dreams, it's good to see you, my dude. Ciao pow. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of when I'm live in the future. I'm here 6 days a week, probably about 10 times per week, in the mornings, afternoons, and at lunchtimes, building different content. And today we are building content for the Crystals of Mabar, which will also be publishing on the DMsGuild and have an extensive free preview down below once completed. This book cover we created around episode 40. We're at currently episode 170, so you can jump into the Wayback Machine and check the playlist for the Crystals of Mabar Eberron Adventure Design here at Theurgy, and you can go check that out around episode 40. But right now, we are going back to the village yet again. We were here back in, I want to say around episode 150 plus, like from 150 to maybe like around 162, something like that. That's when we were building up this thorp. And there's 2 modes to the thorp. There's everything's fine. Welcome to our little village. We've been having some trouble. Please help us. The other version of the thorp is everyone's dead because there was undead. And they found the town. They killed everyone. So blood mess. We are going to mess with the latter. So we already have the former here. Let me peel off the rooftops to all of these structures. You can see a sawmill here with stacks of lumber. We have a grist mill here for grinding up flour and other grains into, grains into flour. We have a blacksmithy here. We have stables. We have a commons area and the apartment for the village mayor. And we also have the sheriff and brig for the community. There is the storage area and a granary here. There's an entrance into town, and there's an entrance into the forest. So what we are going to do is let's create. Let's see, we have treetops as well that we can extract to have as for people that are running around, underneath the treetops. These are separate layers that, like in a virtual tape, like when you have this as a published adventure, you'll have the pages as black and white for easy laser printing, and these tree canopy tops here. There's a color version of them, and let's see where it went. There's supposed to be an easy view outline, and I don't seem to have that outline available right off the cuff, so it makes the conversation kind of, well, it's just kind of bumbly. So let's just go ahead and move away from that for the moment. But somewhere hidden in here, there is a tree. Well, there it is. There's the outlines right there. I missed it somehow. Right. So there's your outline. If you were to do black and white and got rid of all the backgrounds and stuff, it would just be these trunks and these outlines. But with the color, it's too much right now for me to peel apart all of the layers. I just wanted to show off. Well, there you go, showing off. But of course, that blew up in my face. But yeah, the canopies that lift off. So these canopies, these tree canopies, are a separate layer that, as a printout, you'll have just an illustration of those as black and white, and then so you can drop them on top of there to conceal what's in there until like you are able to spot somebody like hiding underneath the trees or something, and they can peel it off. And there you go. Same thing with the roofs. Until you go into the building, the roof is on, like old school top down scroller RPG games like Ultima Online and stuff like that had the top down view. So when you're outside the building, you don't see inside of them. When you go into the building, you can see inside it. And each one of them has its own separate layer, so you can lift off the lid and put it back on as needed. It also allows you to run around and climb on top of the roofs in case your characters are into rooftop heroics. One of the possibilities is to show up when the Thorpe is okay, and then the zombies attack while the players are there to motivate them to, emotionally bond with the village. And so the team can take up positions on rooftops to do ranged attacks if necessary, or yada yada yada. So having the roofs is useful as a separate peel-off layer. But so we don't need to worry about the trees so much. We don't have to worry about the roofs right now. We are going to go into gore. So we're going to double tap on this and go gore. There you go. Save this. And then here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the editing document that we have with our team. Let's see. And we're going to go through each of these text points here. So there's each location on the map. Here, I'll show you the numbers. Each location on the map has a general description, and then a description of before the attack and after the undead attack. So we'll look at what the after the undead attack description of each location is, and we will gore it up appropriately. So I think missed that timer. Let's see. Let's get into a nice dark red. That should do us just fine. Let's see. So we'll look at the description of each. Like for example, the area 1, main gate. That is right here. Obviously, we haven't finished the numbers yet, but whatever. We'll finish the numbers once we finish up the rest of the document to see what is the most appropriate font for us to use, and we'll drop in all the numbers accordingly. So, the few farms passed on the way into the small village square offers barely enough traffic to keep grass from filling in the wagon's path. The community looks like it might only see trade once per season or so. A friendly sign nailed to a stripped tree trunk reads, "Peace. Population 87. The text is roughly cut into the sign, but the number is chalked onto a placard held in place with twine, which I believe we'll be providing an illustration for. So, after the attack, an eerie silence hangs over the village. Only broken and sporadic clacking of loose doors on fragile frames, bullied by the harsh wind blowing from the mountains to the north. Area 2, Forest Path. So no direct indication of trouble from here. We check out number 2. Forest Path. Ruts are worn into the bare earth at the edge of the forest from countless logging expeditions. The clouds above the tree line look dark, hanging low over the forest in the distance. This is the main path leading into the forest that the villagers use when gathering wood or venturing to hunt, gather, and trap. If they are present, the townfolk will all agree that if you venture half a day into the forest, they'll likely run into Red Wolf mercenaries. When the characters begin exploring the forest, refer to Act 1 Region 2, Poisoned Forest below. So, after the attack, text reads, the bare ground leading to the forest has been heavily trod recently, like dozens of iron-shod boots have torn the worn path to mulch. A stale rot hangs on the trailhead like an abandoned cabin full of decaying furniture. A successful DC 12 Wisdom or Intelligence investigation check will note that most of the tracks were made by bare-boned feet clawing through the dry terrain rather than boots. The tracks are several days old and leads only in one direction, out of the forest. As the tracks approach the community, they split into a dozen or so diverging paths, fanning out past the tree line. So, we want to mulch up the steps. That's what we'll do. Yeah, I'm going to grab this. So we're just going to do this for a little bit. And then we're going to use the same brush to erase with, of course. Watched the House of Usher on Netflix this weekend. That was a fun little binge. Good cast. Had folks from was it Midnight Mass, iZombie, and Peripheral. I just found out that Peripheral is not going to be picked up again for another season. That was an Amazon show with the chick from Kick-Ass. Little late teen now, probably legal age already. But that was a really great show. It did not get picked up again for sad reasons. They blamed the writing strike making the timing bad, but I don't know if that's true or not. The actors, too many of the actors may have moved on to be able to pick it up again, possibly because of the strike. But man, Peripheral was really good. I was really looking forward to a second season of that. Ah, well. I refer to the chick as legal age, as opposed to, like, you know, adult. Whatever. Legal to drink, legal to be careless and be held accountable for it. go. Yeah, I like that. The texturing's good. Yeah, sucks. Sucks that they canceled it. I was really, I mean, it was really getting good. I liked how the actress's name is Chloe Moretz or something like that. Anyway, Chloe. I liked how her character was portrayed as feminine, not just a male stand-in. Like the way that she moved, the decision making that she made was more. Less direct combat, use the environment more, try to build leverage against opponents, even though she was in a peripheral body that was combat capable, matching the other people that were larger than her, just because of machine leverage. It's the way that she thinks portrayed like actual combat savviness. I enjoyed that about the show. I like shows that differentiate between like take into account mass and gender and density and all that other stuff, and find ways for each of the characters to be strong because of how their characters are presented, so it's logical. And her character was an MMORPG explorer type, like a speedrunner. So her objectives were largely to avoid conflict, find the most optimal solution, and to be to explore it to see if it's viable pathing or whatever the objective is. While her brother and his friends were ex-military companions, so when they would MMORPG together, they were thinking like a combat team, like a SWAT team or a special ops team, which is what they were, decommissioned. So they thought about moving as a pack and covering each other and watching stuff, but they would bring her sister in to speed run and find non-combat solutions when they get stuck on a situation. It was really cool. Spread this stuff out. I'm gonna keep pockmarking this stuff, spread it out, blah blah blah. So when the undead attack, they attack during the day when there's people actually around. When the players are here, the undead will attack wherever it is that the characters are resting at. If they're here camping, then the undead attack here. If they take one of the empty farmhouses that we've been building the maps for this past month, then the undead can show up there. And they'd show up here, so the team's attention is being split. But there's not very many people that are here in the evening. You get the sheriff and the mayor that live here in town, and that's about all that's actually in town. But beyond that, there's somebody that's willing to. There's always someone that's going to be doing guard duty. So the population is actually very minimal around here. Hey Nitro, it's good to see you. Well, it's Halloween, Nitro, so I can't imagine anything good happening to people tonight. I do not anticipate happy endings for anybody. Gonna tap, tap, tap a bunch of undead footprints all over this place. It's feeling pretty good. Itchy back. Hold on. There we go. There. Sit proper. I'm gonna grab myself a sip. One step at a time. Right now we're just going to smudge in some scruffage from the woods here to indicate some fresh tracks that people can enjoy tracking. I'm not word smarting right now. Forgive word brain. Bad. So we'll scruff this up for a little while. We got an hour or so of scruffing we can do, and then when we come back on Thursday, we'll muck this up some more. We probably won't be done with this map by the time we, an hour and 15 minutes or so. It probably won't be done. We'll come back on Thursday. I think by Thursday we'll be done though, and then we can go back to the abandoned farmhouse and we can gore that place up too, and then we can drop in furniture and stuff, and well, maybe we drop in furniture first, and then gore it up, and then we can remove. Because we already have the emptied out farmhouse, right, for the ones that are abandoned and got left proper. And then we'll also need to have farmhouses that haven't been vacated yet, that people are still there and holding on. But then we're also going to have a farmhouse for people that decided to hang on and didn't have a chance to live to regret it. So we have three modes that we need to do for the farmhouses. And since we have the cleared out houses resolved, then we can move into next week. Adding in all the decor and stocking it, I think is what I'm trying to use. Do-do-do-do. Look that all up. I just want to grind it in a little bit. I gotta say, this is very satisfying. I've been waiting to do this for quite some time. We're just going number by number. So we have the document here, the edited document. Essentially the first act is done. So as soon as I can get this fucking Spelljammer book off of my plate in the mornings, we can actually start building out the layouts and pattern for how the book will work, and that'll be a lot of fun. And then as the third act gets filled in, we'll be able to just add it into it. But I feel horrible how long that Spelljammer book is taking, but it's almost done. But B, it's also a lot more. I did not realize how much time it was going to take for me to dig through what's left. So I feel bad about mistiming that, but at the same time, appreciate that no one's really chewing my head off for it. A lot of footprint and scuff going on around this front door. That cannot be good. Simply cannot be good. Just like that. Just dot. I'm only going up to the doors because we have different descriptions for each of the buildings, and I want to respect what those descriptions are. So I'm only taking the footsteps up to where it starts to engage the actual additional content. Scratching the chicken, scratching the scratching of the chicken, scratch, scratching, scratch. And then they ran off. They killed everyone, and then whoever didn't stick around ran off indiscriminately to the south, off into the wild grasslands of the Talenta Plains, never to be seen again, except perhaps by the sheriff that potentially recruited your characters, and you may just end up being killed. So the sheriff that gave you his badge, it may be that he never comes back. Your follow-up adventure here may be to track down the rogue bands of undead that have escaped the Karnwood and are now just running across the southern plains of Karnath. That could spark concern from their neighbors. Hey, what's up? 520. Oh, is that all? This one over here says 819. So, how do you figure out the grid and sizing on Photoshop to make it easy to transfer to Roll20? I actually managed to make some maps. Hey, congratulations on making maps this month. I actually work. I believe this is at 100 DPI. Hold on. Image size. No, yeah, this is 100. This is 100 resolution DPI. Roll20, which is my VTT of choice, has 70 DPI. So if you use 100 DPI, you're going to have a pretty good look. I mean, even if you scroll in ridiculously close, it's still pretty good looking. But when you reduce the DPI here down to 70 pixels from 100, these grids that we're using here are 2 pixels wide currently, see? But when you drop the DPI down to 70, it blurs. Photoshop kind of blurs those 2 pixels into one in a faded bit. So the hex, the grid pattern actually lines up incredibly well with the 70 DPI vector grid that is in Roll20. So as a standalone file, I make this a 70 DPI, and then I get rid of the grid. It'll be 70 DPI gridless, so that you can drop it into VTT at the 70 DPI, and it'll just automatically line up for you. And then the black and white version without any color, I offer at the same 100 DPI because it's just line art, so it'll just burn fine at 100 or even 300 DPI. It's all the same at that point. It's just a laser printer, so it's super simple. Very, very simple. 100 DPI for like all this details just 100 DPI. It's plenty of detail. You don't have to murder yourself on like 300 DPI because that's print quality. This is plenty good enough. So I mean, like if this still looks good, like this is an inch. So at this scale, that inch looks pretty solid, right? There's a lot of good texture that's going on inside of this space. Good enough that you don't have to really sweat it. So now we're back into this. I'm going to smudge these down, and then I'm going to rake an eraser across all of it to help break up the value of the pock marks. I want there to be inconsistency there and have it blend a little bit better with the terrain. But the pathing should be pretty evident as is. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question, Dreams. And congrats on getting into cartography, man. It's incredibly satisfying. I'm really looking forward to the next adventure. I'm going to do that Frozen Monk Temple adventure. But I might end up doing that as a Kickstarter project to go along with the style of the method of creation that goes along with like building these adventures. I don't know, man. I originally thought, like when I was building all these things, I originally thought I'd just be able to stay on the DMsGuild forever and just play around inside of that, but I don't know what WotC has planned for the next year or so. So my long-term publishing strategies may force me into a Community Commons Kickstarter DTRPG space, and that'd be a shame. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I honestly don't know. I technically don't have to worry about it yet. It's so far out in the future that it's irrelevant to the 3 projects that I'm working on currently. So all I have to do is worry about finishing the current projects that I'm working on. And then reality will hand me what's the next thing I'm supposed to do. That I am confident about. Stuff up, smudge it in, dirty it up. What this grid that I have here? It's just a separate grid layer for myself. And when you peel it open, there's a black that's stacking over the white. The white is 100% opacity, and the black is 75% opacity, and the whole grid itself is also 75%. So there's a layer, there's a folder at 75% capacity. Underneath is white at 100% inside of the 75% folder, and then on top of the white, there's black, and the black is only 75%. That way, you can. I think what you're probably picking up here is that there's a consistency about being able to see the grid, regardless of how the value is changing underneath it. That's because of the white and the black mixing together. It creates an interesting transparency effect that's been proven that's proving to be pretty consistent in being able to overlay almost any kind of environment. Like any occasionally it'll fade into stuff, but for the most part it stands out. And the texture is just a 100 pixel wide box, and the outline of the box is 1 pixel wide. So this is pixel 1, this is pixel 2 through 99, and then this pixel here is 100, and then this is pixel 1, and then 99 pixels until we get to number 100. So we just build a 100 by 100 inch box, and we just stack them next to each other so the lines are 2 pixels wide. Very simple. I think it was, I want to say it was back around episode 50 or 60 that I was building grids. Click on this so I can see more of the screen. You are excited for Spelljammer and excited for Dragonlance. Awesome. And your friend wants to run both as well? Nice. Dreams, so's you knows, in case you are interested, I'm going to be building a Hexcrawl toolkit for the Ravnica campaign setting. And that is where I intend to run my Martial Powers playtest. For those that don't know much about the Ravnica setting, it is Enumenopolis, which means a city that covers the entire world. So the entire planet has like 20 miles worth of city on top of, including all of the oceans. And I'm sorry, it might be 2 miles. It covers all of the mountains, and all of the oceans across the entire planet are completely overrun with city. And the Underdark, or underground, of this world is city buried so many miles under the surface that it just basically fuses into like a compressed urban structure. Like the rock is formed of all the paper and grit and garbage and leftover food containers or whatever else is out there getting pressed over time into new rock. That's what forms the underpinning of the city. But there's also these things called world worms, and that are 20-mile long, like dune style sandworms that when they surface, they will just destroy a half-mile wide, 100-mile long swath of terrain. And when these things decide to migrate from one side of the planet or another, sometimes they surface and just destroy all the cities and infrastructure that are in their path. You can't stop them. So they call these things rubble belts, because all that's left are these long belts of rubble that these worms basically just channeled through on their, mating ritual destruction path or whatever it is that they're doing, or their migration pattern. But so it can take hundreds and hundreds of years for the remaining urbanized areas to attempt to go back and reclaim those lost areas. And in that time, nature is taken over, like nature does, is completely overgrown it in forest, and its original structures are buried underneath jungles that are ruled by Gruul or non-clan organizations, like guildless organizations that don't identify with the Gruul clan or Selesnya or any of the other guilds that rule Ravnica. And so they fight against, both the Gruul and the guildless fight against any kind of civilized guilds showing up to investigate the area for whatever they're investigating it there for. And so all that structure still exists underneath the wild environment that's overgrown it. So there's potentially all sorts of treasures and structures and artifacts and information hidden out there in these partially remnant rubble belts that run through all this area. So the idea is that the characters are they were in an overflight from one portion of the world to another that was still civilized, and their ship goes down, and so they're stranded in the rubble belt, and they don't have any sending stones or communication means to be able to reach out beyond the rubble belts. But there are indications that there is tech that's up and running in some of the rubble belt, like some of the grids that you passed over. There was lights, so the team has an opportunity to go hex crawl style from region to region through this wasteland to try to find a sending stone or a facility that they can jumpstart and jury rig to get back up and running, so they can reach out to to civilization that's eventually going to send search rescue missions to try to find them. So then if they can't find a ways to reach out and they realize that there's search parties out there, then they could instead try to erect a beacon to summon help. And this will, of course, piss off all sorts of NPC threats that are running around in the wilderness. So the idea is that the team is going to hex crawl through, and each hex is going to be assigned to a different color from Magic the Gathering to denote what kind of environment it is, whether it's a swampy area with lots of black magic prevalent, or it's a flooded area. Maybe now it's a lake, so it's going to have a lot of blue presence, or it's flatlands that have been leveled over. Now that's kind of like plains, so it's going to have a lot of white magic channeling through it. So each land type will have its corresponding color type, and your characters will pick two colors to represent which guild in Ravnica they're a part of. And whenever they're in a land, you're going through a hex that corresponds with a color that is represented in the guild that you represent. You'll get mana perks, or like you'll have advantage on spell casting checks, and like you'll have advantage on concentration checks and stuff like that because you're in the color land that resonates with your team. So the party can split up what kind of, like, you'll either be hyper specialized, like if everyone takes red while you're in a red hex, the team will be hyper aggressive and hyper specialized to take on threats. But if you're in a, like, if nobody has black and you have to cross through black terrain, then no one's going to have any advantage in that area. So it makes sense for the team to pick and choose what colors they want their character to represent during that particular adventure. And the idea is that you're leading a caravan of non-combatants through this Rubble Belt wasteland, and the characters are the scouts and the guardians that are protecting the caravan. So anytime if somebody different steps into the table, they can bring a different character with a different color, or every session you can just random what colors your character is devoted to and play them accordingly. Or you can build out specific different characters of different colors and decide to switch characters each session depending on what it is that you want to play. So that's the sort of style of playtest that I'm looking, and I want to build a toolkit out of that, because I think you had mentioned, Dreams, that you were interested in messing around or playtesting with the martial powers stuff that I've been streaming. So once that toolkit is built to randomize what hex, like how to build the hexes and how to build the dungeons that are inside of each hex, then anyone would be able to take that toolkit and build a random Rubble Belt campaign, like a swath of territory. And by limiting the campaign from 3rd to 7th level, if 2 people were to run separate Rubble Belts that are like 100 miles apart from each other, the likelihood of them ever actually running into each other is almost non-existent. But there's thousands of miles of Rubble Belt that anybody could get lost inside of at any given time that may need rescuing or might have to fight their way out of. So the same scenario can basically run for anybody that wanted to do it. So I wanted to put it out there that once the Spelljammer campaign is done, this Eberron project's going to move to the morning slot Monday through Friday, building Eberron assets, layouts, book pages, illustrations, etc. The same stuff that we've been doing with Spelljammer, but that frees up my Mondays and Thursday nights, along with my Tuesday for the Martial Power project itself, and potentially even Saturday for the commission stuff that I have been doing. Those are 3, maybe 4 days that I have open for production then, for me to be able to build out that Rubble Belt toolkit and to be able to run a more formal playtest for the Martial Power system using that Rubble Belt format where people are playing one of them, like none of the full casters, the half or martial classes. So like you'd have access to Warlock, Artificers, as well as Paladins, Rangers, Fighters, Barbarians, Rogues, and Monks. And so everyone would pick one of those what is that, 8? My brain's farting, hold on. Artificer, Barbarian, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue. That's 7 classes. None of the full casting, just the half casters and martial classes. So that should be, oh yeah, and Warlock is 8. So there'd be 8 classes available for characters to choose from. And basically the intention would be to start at 3rd level and kick up into 7th level over time, just to see how, and to be randomizing each hex that they're going into. And so sometimes they're just going across hexes to, like, maybe they just want to get to a white hex so they can defend themselves because they've got a Selesnya and a Boros character on the team today, and there's a white hex up ahead. So let's go there because at least our tanky characters, our Paladin and maybe a Paladin and a Warlock are like, Selesnya and Boros respectively. So they'll be able to get a lot of boosting off of white mana. And so that might be a good place for the team to take a long rest. And then next time we play, we could have different players. But if some of them are the same, they could pick up that same Selesnya and Boros character, or they could decide, well, we have this caravan. We're going to swap out the characters that we're going to use and have those other ones fall back to Cavern Guards. And we're going to choose like Boros, well, like maybe instead, like this time we'll go with Rakdos and Gruul characters, and because we're going to go into a bunch of black and green territory, we want to gain the juice that we can off of that. But on the other side of it is blue, so maybe we want to pick up some Cynic, for instance, or Izzet, and then dive down into one of the dungeons. Then this is a blue tile. Okay, cool. What kind of dungeons do we have here? Well, it looks like it's a Zed up top, but we're not sure what it's going to convert down to, 2 levels down. So when you actually go into the dungeon, you'll be able to see how much space is actually empty space that you just have to drop through to find dungeon corridors. And like maybe 300 feet down, yeah, there's an old Simic laboratory down there. Well, Simic was pretty advanced. They might have a communication system that's up and running, for instance. So maybe if you find one of these communication points, you can churn on the juice for that hex to get that dungeon back up and running, so you can churn on the signal. But when you do, there's going to be like magic eaters or different spirit types that are attracted to the power up. So while the place is active, it immediately is going to trigger like a deadly encounter, and you know that you're going to attract things. So you have only a limited amount of time to try to send down a signal to attract attention, and depending on how well you do with that and the timing of whatever deadly encounter comes in, then your team could get killed. And that's fine, because up top there's a caravan that has replacement characters. But if the team dies in the deadly encounter down below, then the whole facility goes down, and that may or may not mean that a rescue team might try to come out and find you in the next 7 days. So do you want to leave your characters in the same spot for 7 days, hoping a rescue team found the beacon and comes for you? In which case, we're just going to have 7 days of random encounters of different creatures coming at you, which is going to test your character's capabilities. Or maybe they're like, nah, this is a really crappy place to have to defend ourselves against for 7 days. Let's go find another location that might be friendlier for us to defend. And so we need to have a random encounter. We need to have a random encounter generator, a random land generator, and a random dungeon generator for all 10 guilds that can potentially be present, both vertically up and down, above and below ground, in high rises or deep fall dungeons. So a lot of really interesting options there if you're a Ravnica enthusiast. But this having the color system allows for a wide variety of magical color devotion selection for people that use that magic paradigm, because the intention is for martial power characters to have, when you're using a magic paradigm other than just generic spell points, is to have them with 2 colors, while like wizards and other types have 4 or 5 different colors that they have to contend with. So they have to, like, the full casters are expected to have to split up their studies, their research, their spell books more between a broader selection. I'd like to have to mess with a broader selection of color, while martial characters have a very small palette that they have to worry about, which you can choose for yourself depending on what kind of narrative that you want. Like, you want to play a Rakdos character, okay, great. Then you can assign all your powers to either black, red, or both, depending on how you organize your character, which will provide guidance for in the Martial Powers book. But it's super easy to explain in person. Just pick 2 colors and then pick 2 disciplines and devote 2. You've got 5 disciplines, devote 2 of them to one color, 2 of them to the other color, and then the 5th discipline can be devoted to both. So if you're planning on doing a shitload of strikes in the game, then you can have strikes that are devoted to both of your colors. If you're planning on using a lot of sustained powers, then you'll want to have both colors devoted to sustained powers. If you're not planning on using, like, say, exploits or maneuvers at all, you're just going to use strikes, sustained, and reactions, then you can have the exploits and maneuvers relegated to one color and don't use it, so that you have 3 disciplines that are all devoted to the same single color, and you're basically operating out of one color. But as you gain more levels, you're inevitably going to want to be able to tap into all 5 disciplines, because they all have shitloads of good stuff in there for you to play with. So then you got, in each level, each time you gain a level, you can swap what disciplines are devoted to which color, And then whenever you take a short rest, you can swap one of the disciplines that you, or one of the powers that you know. And whenever you take a long rest, you can swap all the powers that you know. And every time you take a short rest, you can swap how much of each color you have. So you're constantly updating your mana pool, and you're constantly updating what powers you have on your list, just like full casters would have options to do as well. So you're staying dynamic, and you can adapt your character, or if you like the character you're using, what powers and how they're using their colors. So a lot of options there for people to poke around and play with stuff, and have a decent in-game narrative to hopefully make it fun and have some goals. Like you can't advance your caravan until the hex ahead is secured. So you have to spend your time as a team securing each hex, which means you have to go in, investigate to see if there's a threat that needs to be cleared out, and then we random up, is there a threat in that hex, and if there are, how many? So we'll have to break the hex down into sub-hexes, and for you to go through, and like maybe there's like D6 threats in each hex that have to be resolved before you can move the caravan into it. And so the DM will secretly roll how many threats there are, and then we'll break up the hex into like 6 different territories or something. And then so while you're in there, you'll have to, there's a chance there's X amount of threats in there, and so you're gonna have to go and investigate each of the hexes until you find where all the threats are actually at, or like do like an overhead tracking of like the hex in general, and then depending on the quality of success and divining the risks of that hex will reveal how many of one out of up to 6 threats are in that hex. And like if you only detect 4 threats, does that mean there's only 4 threats? Or are there actually 6 threats and you didn't detect 2 of them? And for every threat that you don't detect means that you're going to have like a final battle as you move your caravan into that hex because you were wrong about the threats. And now your caravan is exposed, and it'll deplete your caravan resources in some way. Like maybe all your treasure and your gear is stored in the caravan, and you can kit out your characters with the stuff that you've collected over time. And you're always playing scouts until you move. Oh, that might be the way to do it. There's scouting, and then there's scouting mode, and there's caravan mode. Scouting mode would be attempting to take characters ahead of the caravan so that the caravan's not at risk. And so you can have the scouts move ahead 1 hex. And then for you to be able to move another hex ahead, you have to secure a hex for your caravan to move into. So then your scouts can fan out into additional hexes and scout those for like which one. Like it could be that like 1 hex has black magic and 6 threats in it, and no one on your team has black magic. So like, let's avoid the risk-heavy black mana square that we have no power over. Let's see what those other ones are like. Maybe there's another one that feels like there's less risks, or if there are more risks, we have colors that are going to work to our advantage to be able to plow through them more. That might be actually a really fun way to organize it. And then however many threats that you missed when you move your caravan into that hex, you then have to resolve the threats that you missed before the caravan opens up the next batch of hexes that you can move into. I think that would be the way to organize the game, and hopefully people would think that's cool enough to fuck around with that for a short-lived campaign to play around in the martial power system in general. So that's the hope. If no one is interested at all, then I will be a sad panda, and I'll have to figure out a way to bribe people into playing it. But I mean, anyone that playtests on one of my teams, or a sanctioned team that makes me aware of the testing and provides me with feedback, will obviously be included in credits as playtest teams. But that's one of the things I have to do with the Martial Powers book is build out that hex crawl kit, so that we'll have a loose structure around how we would proceed. And basically the dungeons would basically be scaling 5 5-room dungeons. Like if you're a 5-room dungeon fan, we can talk about that at some point. But the idea is to each hex like has a subhex. Each subhex has a structure. That structure is a dungeon. There will be a general 5-room dungeon that you can delve into, and each one of those rooms is another sub-dungeon. So there's actually 25 rooms inside of a structure. Rooms of note, like overall. Like it could be a 40-story structure that rises up, and it's basically a shell of its former self because it doesn't have any power anymore, and all the area around it is desolated. But it's still a 40-story high-rise. So it's just that when you go into that high-rise, it's going to have 5 general areas throughout its structure that are valuable. It'll have a distance between each structure, and then once you get into that structure, there'll be a 5-room dungeon that helps further differentiate what that substructure was all about. So like you could have like an Azorius Senate building that has like a dispatch center, an archives. It can have dormitories for living, a communications center, and maybe like a second archives block. So like those are your 5 main areas. And then like if you go into the communications center, it could have roster details. It could have additional dormitory, and it could have a communications center that you could potentially power up if you have access to white or blue magic, and then like a commerce district, like a shopping mall sort of thing in the area. Like that could be the communications sub district inside of that facility. So then your job would be to fire up the machinery, get the communications network working again, and try to send out a signal asking for help. And so then you would potentially have to fight with the machine spirits that would prevent you from gaining. Once the place goes live, Azorius is going to recognize you are an unsanctioned personnel. So now you have to fight the actual AI that protects the system from being accessed without proper authorization. So you have to trick the machinery into letting you access it. And once you do, now it's going to start attracting undead spirits that have white energy in them that are bound to the facility that also don't recognize you but can't necessarily be communicated with. So they'll try to kill you while you're trying to do this communication stuff. That could be your shtick. As soon as you leave the place, maybe the power shuts down again. Like it shorts out. Like maybe it shorts out after like these 6 hours. So that's all the time you have to be able to try to get a signal out there. And it could take X hours for you to get a signal heard by finding the proper frequency or something like that. Whatever. Bloody blah BS reason. Those are the ideas that I'm thinking about, though. We are just about done mucking this place up. Oh, is there still a significant delay? Delay. No, not really. So martial powers is always on my mind on Monday nights like this because Tuesday afternoon, tomorrow, is our weekly development stream. So we finished the Rune Knight last week, and we're going to work on the Fighter Samurai this week. And once that's done, then we get to go back through all the monks and build out bonus. We went through the monks initially at the front of all of this, but we didn't have the intuition to add bonus powers lists. So now so once the Samurai is done this week, starting next week, we get to go back through the monk builds and add bonus power lists to them and check in to make sure we like all the options that we have for the monk features, as well as how we rebuilt the subclasses. So since we did the monks so early, it makes sense that we'd come back through at the end to make sure that's caught up on modern tech involving the language and the goings of what martial powers can do in general. Anyway, rattle, rattle, thunder, ladder. Do that for now. And eventually they just kind of wander off. I think I'm pretty happy with this. I'll blend in a little bit more, and then we'll start getting into each individual building. Use an eraser. Really low opacity though. I just want to tap at this stuff a little bit just to grind it in a little. Just to break up the consistency of it. I've already smudged it in, which helps a lot, but by tapping some eraser into it, it'll further break up, fade it down like that a little bit. Very good. We'll call this steps. No, footprints. Be more literal. Next. Let's save. Let's see. So what does it say? So that was area 2, Thorpe. Area 3, Constabulary. Let's go to numbers. 1, 2, 3. Constabulary. Stab, stab. Built from a mix of timbers and scrap metal, this one-story building has a rugged utilitarian demeanor. The hand-painted sign above the front door identifies this as a constabulary. Thorpe after the attack. Okay, let's read the front end. Braingrits. Ingo Trivil is a grizzled, middle-aged, how's that say? Brangit Ingo Trive is a grizzled, middle-aged dwarf with a penetrating stare. He's more concerned for the safety of the Thorpe than chasing away unexpected visitors. In asking why the characters have traveled to the Thorpe from more civilized parts of the nation, he'll be on the lookout for dodgy explanations that might indicate they are up to no good. A charisma, deception, or persuasion check of 16 or higher will satisfy him that the characters don't mean harm to the Thorpe. A successful DC 15 Charisma, Investigation, or Insight check can be used to cajole the dwarf into providing the information that the villagers are vanishing, Red Wolf mercenaries are denying access to the forest, and woodland creatures are fleeing the region. If the characters indicate that they've been sent to help with the Thorpe troubles, the dwarf will be swift to introduce them to the village mayor next door in the Commons building. I'm going to write a note about that. For me to fix that, I want to split that up. A Deception 16 sounds great. A Persuasion 10 sounds fine to me. A successful DC 15 Charisma check, Investigation or Insight, blah, blah, blah. Okay, after the attack. So, the door hangs open on its hinges with no sign of activity within. The front half of this building served as a constabulary with an apartment towards the back. Dried blood on the floor and furniture in disarray shows signs of a battle within. It's time. The front door was bludgeoned until the frame splintered, and at least 2 assailants entered the building, and a battle ensued. These facts can be gathered with a successful DC 15 Intelligence or Wisdom investigation check. Broken humanoid bones and overturned pieces of furniture are scattered about the building's interior. Unusual black mineral deposits, crystals of Mavar, have begun growing in and around the patches of dried blood on the floor that lead out the back apartment door. There's a small, easily found till box under the bed containing some blah. DM's notes: the battle started in the apartment when the undead broke down the door while the dwarf was sleeping, but by the time they were inside, the dwarf had already armed and attacked. After taking damage, the constable fled through the back door and headed to the Commons, Thorpe Area 10, to check on the mayor, leaving a trail of blood from the back door of the constabulary to the back door, to the back office door of the Commons. The undead pursued. Fled through the back door and headed to the Commons. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. So 10. Looks like I need to fix... looks like I need to break down some doors, don't I? This door got broken down, this door got broken down, and this door got swung open. I think I'll break down doors later. Came in through here. Here. Let's check our notes. Battle within. So I think we can start getting bloody around here. And I'm going to have to get rid of these doors. I'm going to have to knock down that furniture. What I'm going to have to do is bond all of these. I'm going to have to lock all of these. I have to coordinate these layers because I have separate layers for a lot of these items, as well as the walls, the coloring for the walls, and the black and white for the walls. So for now, I think the most sense is to just work on blood trails, and then we can come back on a later session and break up the furniture accordingly. So anyway, that's what feels right for now. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to take this 0 here, and I'm going to lots of blood, lots of mess. Maybe. I'm going to be careful about smudging too faint. Like, I want a organic smudgery going on, but I don't want a lot of faded, low opacity, light marks. If that makes any sense. I'm going to get rid of that door eventually, so I feel okay painting over it. I occasionally want little streaks lining up with the ruts in the wood grain, because that's what blood would do. I'm gonna make this our last 20 minutes for the night. This dwarf got fucked up.
My lord, that is a lot of blood. Lots of blood indicates lots of hit points.
Alright, well, we're going to have to leave that guy there for now, because that's as far as his path is supposed to go off of the information we have for number 3. Isn't that fun? It's fun. Bloody little path. Sheriff Blood Trail. How good to see you here. Let's see what's next. Smithy. That's over here. The small smithy can accommodate 3 or 4 people at work with room for supplies, materials, and production. A stream of white smoke puffs off the raging forge. The heavy sound of metal clattering and the smell of burning coal and molten iron fill the area. A couple of very stout muscular dwarves are hard at work. The smithy used scrap metal left over from the last war to produce small utilitarian items that merchants can safely sell to small outlying communities without drawing the attention of law enforcement for illegal salvage. If the characters ask the dwarves at the smithy about any unusual activities or events, they'll express their concern that so few merchants have been visiting the community and that they have been running out of the raw material that they need to finish their work. Trappers and hunters have reported what looks like an old fort in the woods, and the smiths have suspected that it might have salvageable material. With mercenary patrols keeping residents of the thorp out of the forest, the dwarves believe that there must be something in there worth finding. But after the attack, with Smithy's unusually with smithies unusually being with smithies usually being the loudest spots in any town space. The silence here is eerily deafening. The fires in the forge are now cold, and many pieces of work are scattered about in various stages of completion. Aside from various scraps of metal and half-bent horseshoes, there is nothing of any value left at the town smith. A character with a passive perception score of 12 or higher or greater will notice splatters of blood around the central workbench and a nearby hammer covered in coagulated blood with black crystals sprouting from the dried gore. A character who succeeds on a DC 14 intelligence investigation survival check will see at least half a dozen sharp-toed tracks leading from the woods to the smithy, and both sharp-toed and booted tracks leading to the commons, with patches of blood dotting the path. Okay. Footpath. That's what I want to do. Let's see. Character with passive perception score 12 will notice splatters of blood around the central workbench. And a nearby hammer covering coagulated blood with black crystal sprouting from the dried gore. A character who succeeds on a DC 14 intelligence check will see at least half a dozen sharp-toed tracks leading from the woods, from the north to the smithy. That's how I want to express that. And both sharp-toed booted tracks leading to the commons. There you go. So, let's see. Put a hammer on top of here. Gore that up a bit. Need a hammer. I'll have to set this on a separate transparent layer that the demon can slap down because it's pretty obvious to see the blood trail. Not like you really need a check for it. I just need to eliminate that. Maybe no check needed. Just lead them. That might be the best thing I could do right now, is not worry about a check inside of there. Because anyone that looks at the map is going to see the blood. It's obvious. So it's poor form to have the map offer something that the team isn't just automatically going to observe, because they can automatically observe it as players. Ergo, it should be something they can automatically see as characters. More spatter blood line going along here. What's up? Hey, Shiner. It's good to see you. How you doing? We are goring up the village for today's adventure. I'm not going to be on for much longer. Maybe another 5 minutes or so. Time to get us from this the smithy to the commons. Ha! Gore is always exciting. It always denotes trouble, doesn't it? It's not going to have gore without some sort of trouble. Like, if you're just slaughtering a sheep for food, you don't really refer cleaning out its entrails as gore. You know, I mean, it could be gorish, I suppose, if you're like flinging them at your brother or something, but it doesn't really, I don't think it really just like becomes full bore gore. Full bore gore. It's I don't think it raises that level of severity until it's something that you don't want to see. I mean, like, to the sheep, it's gore because that's my innards on that hook. But for anyone that's not a sheep, or maybe wild stock in general, looking at that goes, tasty haggis. That's not gore. Like, tasty haggis is not gore. Otherwise, you wouldn't. Well, I mean, maybe if you hate haggis and it's not tasty, then perhaps to you it may be gore. Or, you know, to vegetarians out there, mad respect to the, you know, the ethical vegetarian. I'm down with that. I was vegetarian for a number of years myself. Mostly because my body said don't eat meat right now, so I didn't. There wasn't anything really beyond it other than that. And I just eventually started eating meat again because I was so poor that I needed free food from the restaurant that I was working at the time. It's like, hey, free beef. Beggars no choosers, and that ended my vegetarianism. Whew, man, I can feel my body spasming. It's been waiting to let go of that for a while. May this feeling be released. It's faced and felt completely. May this feeling be forgiven completely as it leaves my body. There we go. Chip, chop, chiree, chiroo, chirum. This song. I think this is about concludes us for the day. We got about a minute or so. By the time this song is over, it'll probably be time for us to go. This so I can remind myself that I'm supposed to. What is up with that grid? Oh, that's right. That's the floor. That was the floor plan that we put in there. Nice. So we had tiles in there. I remember that now. Ooh, I'm supposed to have. This is going to be the Smithy Gore and Sheriff Gore. Sheriff crystals, and I need crystals. So let's grab our crystal brush here real quick before our day is over. Thank you, Timely Timer. Thank you, Timely Timer. It's going to be on a separate layer. This is the first time the team will be encountering crystals if they discover this place after the attack. This door is going to go, so I can afford to draw over that. These crystals that we have everywhere, they grow in the manifest zone, but they also grow anywhere that blood is at from undead. From like if undead are carrying crystals on them, and all the undead from the forest do, when they cut and when they hurt somebody, the blood starts to coagulate and it causes crystals to grow there as well. So the undead horde that's slowly spilling out of the forest will unnaturally spread the manifest zone as well by just simply killing people and letting blood wherever they go just starts to cause more crystals to form. So we're taking these patches here and we're dropping some crystals on them haphazardly, or there's a bigger patch that's more likely where we're going to have some more crystals. Nice. Yeah, if you, I think you were around for all the earlier maps where maybe once you actually get into the manifest zone, that crystal is like fucking everywhere. So I like the undead present, the undead presence. I like that for folks to see it because there's that immediate connection to what's this crystal gunk. And if you're a necromancer or have really strong training in alchemy, you'll recognize that it's a extraplanar origin, which clues the team in quickly that there is that strangeness is afoot at the Thorpe. So, but we're going to, there we go. Get that a little bit. Break that down a little. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stop here for now. And so when we come back next time, we're just going to continue through the document that we have, reading each of the sections and finding out what we need to do next. So the next one's going to be at the lumber mill, and the lumber mill is up here. So shit happens here, and I think people run away this way, and shit happens at each one of them. So we got these little dotted trails that are leading around. I'll take the team from place to place. That'll all eventually lead them. All these footprints too. Well, it goes into the forest. So that's the natural path that the team needs to take after they are content exploring this place for a while. So anyway, right on. Shiner, good times, guys. Thanks for everybody hanging out. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning to work on more the next Eberron piece or the next Spelljammer artwork that we've been working on. I will be back tomorrow at lunch as well to continue developing the martial power system. We'll be translating the samurai fighter subclass into the martial power paradigm. And then we'll be back again Wednesday morning, and then Thursday morning, and then Thursday night for more of this Eberron. That'll be the next time. This Thursday will be when we continue this gore. And then Friday morning we'll be back for more Spelljammer. Friday afternoon we'll be back. I don't know what we'll be doing on Friday. And then Saturday morning we'll be back to continue the book cover commission that we have. And then the week will start over, and we'll keep it all up over again. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. Out of here for the day. I'll see you in the morning. Cheers.